Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning, Josh.
We're in the second half of October.
Yes.
How does that feel?
Weird.
I
feel like time is just flying by all of a sudden. It's like the energy of the year is just starting to go so fast.
Have you heard my theory of shuffle?
No, tell me the theory of shuffle.
It existed before the pandemic, but especially during the pandemic, my theory is that we all live on shuffle per our iPhones and iPods, So it used to be when you listen to music, you'd put on a record, you listen to all the 10 songs, even the boring filler. And with the iPod, we live on shuffle. And so am I going to hear a song from the 60s, from the 90s, from the 00s, whatever it may be. And so I kind of feel like time has been warped and changed, and we could all be living in every decade or even all time at once. Wow. So I don't know if this is an enlightening, refreshing idea or a scary one.
Sounds like a Marvel movie to me.
The
multiverse.
Yes.
Josh Reeves and the multiverse.
but it's great to connect. We've got a busy holiday season coming up at Mile High Church. What are you looking forward to?
Well, I think for me personally, that's part of why this time of year goes really fast, because I was this summer in my home office listening to Christmas music as we were reviewing music for the candlelight services in December. And my mother walked by and said, "Why are you listening to Christmas music?" And I said, "Because I have to review these songs that we have to pick out so early." So it's like everything we've been planning for the holidays, and now we're going to start planning for the first part of the year. We just worked on our master calendar for the whole 2024. So it's always like this part of my brain is focused in the future. But I always do love this time of year more than any time of year, with all the fun holidays and the weather changing and the coolness coming and even the snow coming. Yeah,
we're getting there. And I'm sure we plan our own personal lives with the same amount of planning and precision, don't we?
I try.
But we've got Dan Harris event coming up November 3rd. We're doing our Thanksgiving service on a Wednesday night, the night before Thanksgiving. Blessings Abound, is that what it is?
Bountiful. Blessings Abound, yes.
I think of that paper towel guy.
I know.
We can clean up anything. That's going to be great. Yes. And then we've got our normal family Christmas, and then our candlelight services, which you were referring to. What's our theme this year?
Oh, it's Christmas magic.
I could use a little Christmas.
You want to be in the world, which I really love.
I'm up for some Christmas magic.
Me too.
So hopefully, if you're listening, you're going to spend a lot of time with us these next couple months in person or online. And here, left field question. Do you have a message that you gave this year that you're particularly proud of, or that has really resonated with you? I don't know if you ever have that experience of listening to your own talks later on. I can't watch myself, but I'll listen, and every once in a while I'll go, "Oh, that was meant for just me. I gave that." I wonder if you have one of those for you.
Well, mine I think would be the one that I gave. I think it was in September, about resistance, and it really resonated for me, and I think for a lot of people, because I think a huge part of what we struggle with in our world is resistance to what's so, resistance to who we are and how magnificent we are. And it just really felt like it had some legs. In fact, I'm developing a workshop on it, because I'm going to give the workshop at another church in a couple of weeks on the Western Slope. And I think it really spoke to me. Yeah.
Awesome.
What about for you? What was yours?
Oh, there's always some that I like a lot. I always love the honor of speaking around July 4th here.
You're really great
there's this weird, it's kind of like when this date and time meet, there's a passage and you can talk about the country and not get mean emails.
Right.
And that's an opportunity for me to talk about, history and to talk about spirituality and to talk about America as a spiritual idea. And I'm sure not everybody agrees with everything that I say, but it's really fun. And this year was particularly special because it was talking about America, not as politics, but as tenacious characters, and you think about Frederick Douglass, or you think about Eleanor Roosevelt, or you think about Walt Whitman. Those are just a few people that I talked about. That's what America is these great people who've made us who we are. And we get so downtrodden making it about other things. And so that was just a fun one to get to give. And, speaking, not of politics, but of just humanity, I know that we're all just so devastated by what we saw in Israel. And now we're dealing and watching this aftermath of, wanting a world of peace and yet also wanting justice for these folks who have been so, had their dignity taken from them, in such a terrible way. And, having deep compassion for these innocent lives in Gaza and the West Bank who are already experiencing, but they're not only are they experiencing such difficulty right now, but they know it's about to get a lot worse.
It is, yeah, and it really is a time, I think, where we have to hold both energies of seeing and having compassion and feeling the just utter helplessness of watching our fellow human beings struggle in this way, and some of the images that are coming out of that time, while also holding the high watch of spirituality and prayerfulness, and just sending. I keep talking to myself in my prayer life each day about sending love bombs, just like love, and just really sending love over there, and knowing. I was talking with a group of people the other night. We were talking about not knowing what the solutions are, but recognizing we don't have to know. But what we have to know is that there are solutions. There are ways towards peace, paths to peace that can emerge, even if we can't see them right now. So wanting to be part of that change in the world.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many complexities there. And, I was listening to a great African-American thinker, and he was talking about watching the attack on Israel and how it brought up for him, the experiences of watching people who went through slavery and seeing someone who was Black be murdered because of the color of their skin.
Yes.
And how deep a tragedy it is for so many people, because it felt not just like an attack on individuals, but on a whole race. And it brings up that collective wound. So I think there's that aspect for all of us that we have to, pause and not fix, but listen, and watch that wound and what it has to tell us, not about just that incident, but about history and the Jewish people. And, to want, I think, justice against anyone who did that attack. And we're drawn as well to think of a Palestine that can exist, in peace, and think of a Middle East that can exist in peace. And that, what really needs to be destroyed here is a way of thinking that would think that murdering a so-called kind of people is acceptable, and that can't be acceptable in our world anymore. The first thought, because it happened on a Saturday and I got to speak on a Sunday, was just this thought for me that, we don't choose what connects us in life.
No.
We are one, but we do choose over time what disconnects us.
We do.
We do have to choose hate over time. It's ingrained in a lot of us, and sometimes it's perhaps generational and passed down. But I think for a lot of us right now, even in these most difficult of circumstances, we have to resist the urge to hate, resist the urge to separate, and to hold a consciousness of oneness that sees that, yes, everyone has a right to belong in the world and to thrive in the world. And it's not about attacking people. It's attacking these terrible ways of thinking that would cause people to do such violence and harm to other human beings.
Yeah, and what I hear you saying in that for me is what I think is important to recognize, that we're all part of ushering in the solutions and the changes and the evolutionary ideas that have to come from that. So I was saying before we started today how there's this part of me that wants to know what's going on and this other part of me that just wants to ignore it. And it's that dance where I feel strongly that as a fellow human whose consciousness is connected to the consciousness of all of the beings who are struggling in this experience, that I have to be willing to be aware of what's happening and be aware that I don't want to be in denial. I don't want to be pretending that it's not happening. I want to be able to look right at it and see through it into the heart of love and be a part of the energy that can create that evolution that you're talking about. And that we all have some accountability for that, for sure.
Yes, yeah, and I do think you can have. I know it's a controversial saying, the good people on both sides argument. You can have good people on both sides, and you can still have right and wrong.
Absolutely. Yes.
and want what's
Yes.
best. And I think even in our country, we're so quick to take sides or to create conflicts. In this case, Jewish and Palestinians, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a perspective that I can understand with all of that. But
Yes.
I also think, in spiritual living, we have this requirement to the sacred duty to hold all as one, while at the same time saying, you don't get away with this bullshit.
No,
you
no,
don't get away with
no,
doing that to people. And there is a natural consequence on both sides that happens to that. And so accountability and justice is very important. And it's so hard as well to realize that everyone in this has been victimized, and that each and every person has the ability to claim responsibility for themselves, accountability, and to step forward and make a change for themselves and others. And so it's still a scary time, because it's like, gosh, this could turn into World War III with Lebanon and Iran, and we're moving these large ships into the area. And so we want to hold consciousness for peace, and also say, hopefully, as tragic, and there's no sugarcoating what happened, was that this can be a vehicle for choosing a greater peace as opposed to a greater destruction.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that I kind of tend to be an optimistic person. And so the part that often hurts my heart is that I just have to know that there are solutions in every conflict that's occurring in not only this and every part of the world, that people get to this desperate place where they feel that the only solution are these violent choices. And I understand how people can get there, because it can happen in a personal relationship. It can happen between parents and kids. It can happen in between police officers and citizens. It can happen in all sorts of venues. We see that. And so it's looking at what are viable solutions that I don't even know about that can come forth, and realizing that this isn't going to ever be a solution on this planet. This does not solve things.
We do, yes.
Yeah.
And we change ourselves. I'm always studying some part of history once a year, and this year, just kind of organically, it's been Ireland,
Has it really?
and learning about, what they called the Troubles. So
Sure.
you had, kind of, especially Northern Ireland, this, Protestant representative of Britain group, and you had Catholics, and there was an old Irish joke which went, someone says, "Hey, what religion are you?" And they say, "Oh, I'm an atheist." And they say, "Well, are you a Protestant atheist or a Catholic atheist?" Because there was such that sense of identity, and what happened through all of that, hunger strikes and IRA and terrorism and bombings and unfair attacks, Catholics being murdered and being called terrorists for no reason, and everyone engaged in some horrible behavior. And eventually what you had is the recognition that this violence is not solving anything. And you just eventually, I think, had people evolving, and not like things aren't still tense there at times, not that there's not underlying discrimination, but at some point, it's not always about diplomatic solutions. It's about growing up and realizing and wanting a better life for you and your children and your people, and doing whatever it takes. And sometimes it's that willingness to release being so right all the time.
A lot of times it is that.
To do that. And, I know, the Troubles doesn't apply to everything that's going on in, Israel and the surrounding parts at that time. But I think it doesn't take much to study human conflict to see those aspects there. And yet, and I'll end with saying this, the national identity of Israel is so inspiring to me, that you can see people from all over the world who identify with their country as much as with their own individuality, so much so that living for that cause greater than themselves, causes them to come together to respond and do what is necessary to protect Israel's future. And although there's something worrisome about about that with war. There's something to me also quite inspiring about that type of patriotism that we're seeing taking place. At one point, there was a picture I saw of all the parked cars on the freeway of the reservists who are coming in, parking their cars and walking to go and report for duty. And so in all of the sadness and tragedy, I also just affirm the identity of Israel, that is its people and its ancestors and its ongoing spiritual struggle for its peace and liberty. And I think what we want is its peace and liberty and the liberty and peace of all nations surrounding it and in the world. And I think deep down, Israelis want that too. And I think we all want to work towards that while not having any illusions of the struggles that are ahead.
That's very well said, Josh. Wonderful.
Cookie recipe, treats. Let's end this on a sweet note.
Oh my!
What do you do? What do you love to cook at this time of year, Michelle?
Well, I did make some Halloween cookies a couple weekends ago, and they came out pretty tasty, but looking pretty horrible. I will admit. I experimented with my grandmother's sugar cookie recipe, and I went to go frost the cookies. And let's just say that it was good that they're Halloween cookies because the frosting kind of looked a little vomiticious.
Ladies and gentlemen, the word of the day, vomiticious.
But they tasted very tasty.
I would love one, and that's more baking than I've done. And so hopefully, Nancy June, my 5-year-old daughter, and I will get some time to cook and embrace the season.
Will you cook cookies, or what will you?
I'm very open to all of that. We're much more, perhaps, Halloween involves usually some witch's brew, which is some pea soup, and probably some sort of spaghetti noodles with something vomiticious.
Yes. Okay. Good.
So great connecting with you this morning, Michelle. If you're listening to this, we just so appreciate who you are, and thank you for, in your own way, being a part of Mile High Church.